because they've become an identity. And that identity is something that we all identify with as humans.
Being a kinder person.
A kinder person, an empathetic person. But the reality is that the actual practice of a vegan diet is nothing like that. Nothing like that. There's an Instagram handle, I think it's so true, Carnivore is Vegan. And it's not my handle, it's somebody else's handle. That's so true. If we're actually talking about empathy, talk about the least amount of suffering. You raise one animal in an ecosystem that is a cycle. That's the way it's been going for thousands, millions of years. Maybe you even take that animal ethically by hunting it. Maybe you even spend time in the wilderness while you're hunting an animal. Maybe you spend time with people while you're hunting an animal. And I'll tell you, so I've hunted twice in my life, Joe, and I'm going to hunt this season with a bow, and I've hunted twice before with a bow. Both times that I killed an animal, walking up to that animal was one of the most spiritual experiences of my life. It was just this strike, like responsibility.
It's very psychedelic.
Be a responsible human. You took this life, right?
Yeah.
I think that as humans, it's okay to be a part of the cycle of life and death, and we will all die, and we will all go back to the earth. At some point, these atoms that I am renting will return to the earth. And so I think that it's okay to take life respectfully in a hunted way. But if more people did this, and this is not necessarily scalable in 2020, but I think if more people did this, it's like a sacrament. And I don't mean that in any sacrilegious way, but it was just like, it was one of the most clarifying things I've ever done to remind me, be a good person. Here is the universal bounty to you. And I hope this doesn't sound too woo-woo, but it was my personal experience. Like, here is the universal bounty to you in this moment. Like, you better be a good person because you are so fortunate to have this nutritious food here. It's just very striking. I think it would change. And that's completely different than the vegan ideation that we're being harmful to animals or we're being disrespectful. It was like, wow. It was almost like that animal gave me the gift, like, be a better human.
Well, I had this thought before I started hunting that I was either going to become a vegetarian or was going to become a hunter. I had seen a lot of those documentaries and those videos online about factory farming, and it's appalling. It's disgusting. It makes you sad. It makes you sickened. And I was trying to figure out, what can I do? Like, would I be capable of killing an animal? I never killed an animal before. And then after I did, I went hunting with Steve Rinella on his television show. I shot a mule deer. We ate it over a fire. And I said right away, I'm doing this from now on. This is what I'm doing. Because it resonated. It made sense. It felt good. It was a very difficult thing to do. It took days and days of hiking many, many miles in the mountains to find a mule deer and to shoot it and then to haul it out of there and then to cut it up and eat it and cook it, or cook it and eat it. It's a weird word, spiritual, but it is a spiritual experience because it connected you with the life that sustains you. Like, you were there. I looked at that animal when I squeezed that trigger off and watched it drop. And then when we were cutting it and hauling it out and eating the liver and eating the heart and cooking meat over the fire, immediately it all made sense to me. I was like, okay, this feels so much different than buying meat in a store. When I take a piece of elk meat, I shot an elk last week in Utah. When I take a piece of elk meat 2 weeks ago and I put that on the Traeger, I season it and I put it there and I cook it and then I'm eating it and I'm feeding it to my family. I have a connection to that meat. I looked in the eyes of that elk when I released that arrow. I watched it drop 15 seconds later. I felt the relief. I felt the happiness, and I felt the gratitude that this animal is going to be how I get my meat. And hundreds of pounds of meat, I'm going to give it to my friends. I give it to
your tribe.
Yeah, I love it. I love all of it about. And the people that I've met through this pursuit have been some of the best people I've ever met in my life. Some of the nicest, most disciplined, most warm, friendly, loving people. They're not animal haters. They're not cruel people. They're people who understand where their food comes from. And it's a different connection to food. The hunters have a different idea of life and death than the average person who's shielded by it, who's using their credit card to pay for a supermarket hitman to make cheeseburgers for them. And that's not the way to go. And I know